Welcome, everyone, back to the Boiling Point podcast. This is episode 83, Life After Service, and I am joined by a brand new guest. He was a staff sergeant in the Army, and he was discharged, medically discharged, I believe it was. Now he's taking on many other projects, and we're going to talk to him about what he does after how it was transitioning after the service, and what he's been doing now that his service is over, and a little bit about his actual service. Matt from the Patriot Edda. Make sure you go check him out. Search on Facebook, the Patriot Edda. And also you can search online. He's a writer for America's Tribune. So look for that, americastribune.com. It's a new news site, kind of like the Blaze or the Daily Wire, but very, very early in its startup. So make sure you go check that out, support that page. Lots of different kinds of writers on that page. I just became a writer on that page myself. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. So, Matt, welcome to the Boiling Point podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to coming on yours. Matt and I are going to be doing a couple of different episodes together. And we're even going to be doing probably a series on the Constitution where I'm going to play the dummy from the left side, and I'm going to challenge Matt, who also was studied the Constitution in law school for a while. So he knows the Constitution certainly better than I do. And I know it pretty good, but he knows it far better. He definitely knows it far better than me. But we're going to get to that. That's a series we're going to be putting together in the future, not right now. Right now, we're just going to talk about Matt. Matt, where did you serve? Where did you serve at?
Oh, man.
During your service time?
Well, I served a lot of places, man. Like you said, I was a staff sergeant when I got out. I actually got medically retired. I'm retired in the Army now. I got out back in 2015, but when I enlisted after I graduated basic training, I went straight to Germany. I spent 5 years in Germany with the 173rd Airborne. And then after that, I came here to West Virginia as a recruiter. No, I'm not from West Virginia. I just want to clarify that because I do not like this state very much. But I've been a lot of places. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Ireland. I've been to London. I've been to Germany. I've pretty much been all over the place, man.
Yeah, that's got to be nice. That's got to be one of the nice things, though, is the travel, being able to see all those places. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Good memories.
Yeah, that's good. And of course, you're proud of your service, and we're proud of your service. And thank you for your service to this country.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, it's important. Without people like Matt and even another friend we met through a mutual friend who is also a soldier, who's also named Matt, coincidentally.
I served with Matt.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and have him on. He's with Sky Tribes. That's the new charity that's just come out. If you've been following us on Facebook, that's a new thing that I've been sharing. It's a new charity. It helps veterans. And I'm trying to get them on the podcast to talk about their work with that. So hopefully that'll be the next week or two. Look for that. So Matt, you were a staff sergeant and then you were a recruiter. How was recruiting? How was that? Just being home, but still being in the service.
Man, I guess this is where your viewers are going to figure out pretty quick what type of person I am, because I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to bullshit you. I hated recruiting. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was toxic, and it was probably one of the worst experiences of my military career. I hated it.
Wow, really? What about it?
Well, there's a lot of things that I can talk about. The long hours. Well, all right. So I'll give some context. A lot of recruiters, especially in recruiting command and in the recruiting community, a lot of them aren't combat veterans. You don't see too many combat veterans like infantry, Cav Scout, etc. You don't see a lot of those types in the recruiting community. So when somebody like me goes into recruiting, when I went into recruiting, I was an E5. I was a sergeant, and I had already been to combat twice. I had 2 medals for valor. I had a lot of combat accolades. I was a combat soldier. So going out into recruiting as a combat soldier, it's just a different beast, because you can't relate to a lot of people that serve in recruiting. Dude, I'm sorry, but you just can't relate to other people who never served in combat, and these are supposed to be leaders. So that's just one scenario. So right off the get, I didn't like it because I saw people that had skirted in the system in the Army and never been deployed, and that's because they were in recruiting. These were career recruiters. It was toxic. They do lie. they do lie to people to get them to enlist, which I never did that. I never sacrificed my integrity because that's not how I'm built. But they lie, they cover up things.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude, it's toxic. You working long hours. There were times I was working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, working football games for high schools, 3, 4 hours away, and then working weekends. It is, man. There's a lot of things I can say. It is a toxic environment. It sucks.
But is it not an important part of the service though, right? Recruiting, trying to get.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. It's needed. It's a very important, very 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 important service because you have to get people to enlist. It's just the command itself and the environment and what they expect their leaders to do while they're serving on recruiting. That's what makes it so terrible. And a lot of people don't know this. We already know that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Most people don't realize that one of the biggest for the longest time before recruiting started to get national publicity, it was recruiting that actually had one of the biggest suicide rates in the Army.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So an important job, but also a hard job, and maybe one that needs adjusted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And sorry if I gotta wipe my beard, man.
That's okay. Like I told you before we started, you're not the first person to have an adult beverage on the Boiling Point podcast.
I'm a veteran, and it's kind of my thing when I talk to other people. Just let's do this.
Coincidentally, my cousin Tyler, also I believe he was the one that had an adult beverage on the Boiling Point podcast. We've had people smoke on the Boiling Point.
That's so your cousin was the veteran, right?
Yes.
Yep. That doesn't surprise me.
Yep, that exactly. That's why I said when you asked me about it, I kind of laughed a little and I was like, oh, that's funny because my cousin, who is also, just out of the service, asked me the same exact thing. So yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely not a problem. This is a relaxing, conversation. That's what it's about. Just having a conversation and raising the level of debate on some things. So you were all over the world, Ireland, Germany. You were in combat.
Oh yeah, I did.
Like Afghanistan, Iraq. Is that where you were in?
Yeah, I was Afghanistan. I've never been to Iraq. I was in Afghanistan 2 times. 2 times.
2 times in Afghanistan. All right. How were the conditions there for the soldiers?
Well, I guess that requires a little context. What do you mean? How
were you supplied well? Did you have the appropriate clothing? Did you have appropriate rations?
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. When it came to supplies and stuff like that, we had everything that we needed, obviously.
Okay, well that's good. How was the? Did you guys have a purpose over there, or was it is it the way that it kind of seemed in the media that it was kind of just you're there, but what are they doing?
We were told that we had a purpose. We were told that we had a purpose. But if you talk to most veterans, we didn't give a shit about what politicians had to say or even what the mission set was. Like, yeah, hey, you guys are going to go into this area and you're going to root out all these terrorist networks and you're going to provide stabilization to the local region. Like, the same political bullshit. But did we ever believe that? No. You want to know why I was there? I was there fighting for my country, but most of all, I was there to make sure the men to my left and right got home. So when it came to like my purpose wasn't politically based. Yeah, like don't get me wrong, I was there to fight bad guys and put them in their fucking graves. Yeah. Like that was my job. It was my job. I didn't care. Like I did not care about their feelings. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna sum up. So you're saying it wasn't you, and I think that's gonna be the way it is with most soldiers. When we talked to Tyler about it, he was not necessarily concerned with when he was there. Was not concerned with the politics of it either. So if you weren't there for the politics, you're not there for what they're selling on the media and nope. What they're feeding all the people. You were there because of the guy to your left and the guy to your right, exactly. And to shoot some bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew they were there. There were, like, don't get me wrong, we had a reason to be there. Afghanistan, we had a reason to be there. Do I think we needed to be there for 20 years? No, absolutely not. But the guys that we were fighting, they are like the scum of the earth, worst type of people that you could imagine. And I can't express that enough. These are horrible people. And I'm not saying the entire population is horrible. No. Just that specific group of individuals.
Yeah.
They deserved a lot of what they got. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the way. I think if you talk to most soldiers, that's, I don't want to speak for all soldiers. I'm not speaking for all soldiers, but it seems most of the soldiers that I talk to never care about the politics of it. They're there for their fellow soldiers to shoot some bad guys and to secure the security of our nation. That's
Right.
why they're
Yeah.
there. And I think that speaks a lot to how different it is between what's happening in a soldier's life and what's happening here at home with the media and stuff.
Oh
The
yeah.
media feeds the people, a bunch of stuff that's not true, and the soldiers are really, they're the ones on the ground. They're the ones who should be reporting on the situation.
On top of that too, most of your media news coverage and most of the coverage of the war, even when they get it from the perspective of soldiers, they don't get it from the perspective of your basic private or
The guys on the ground.
the lowest enlisted. Well, they get it from the guys on the ground, but it's always the fucking officers. The officers are always the ones that tell those stories.
Yeah.
They're not. And a lot of those stories aren't accurate. I don't know if you and I have discussed this, but there's actually a book that was written about my first deployment, and it's called The Outpost. And it got turned into a major movie that Orlando Bloom plays in. Actually, my platoon leader, the lieutenant that I had on my first deployment, helped direct that movie. He was there. He was there, yeah. And I can tell you right now that book is bullshit, and it's written by Jake Tapper, and I've actually had it out with Jake Tapper before in the past. I'm sure you know who Jake Tapper is.
I do know who Jake Tapper is, yeah.
I told him, there was one point a few years ago when I got out, I told him to go fuck himself.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well.
Because the way he wrote that book, it correlates to the whole media thing. The way he wrote that book, not once did he ever interview me about the events of what took place in that book. Not once.
Okay.
But he most certainly got every story he could from every single officer that was trying to get accolades for their military record.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? He
never. Is that a problem that exists in our military? Is there a discord between enlisted men and officers?
Often, yes. Yes.
And you think is it ambition? The officers have want to get higher, want to go higher, want to get promoted higher, and the enlisted man wants to complete a task.
Yes, and I'll give you a scenario. I told you that I have 2 medals for valor. One of them I received on that first deployment, and it talks about this in the book. The book talks about the firefight that I was in, and I actually got my first medal for valor for. I get into it with one of the officers that was there all the time about politics and about what happened while we were there. And one of the biggest things he always likes to say is, hey, don't forget who wrote that award. Don't forget who wrote that award. I'm the reason why you have that medal for valor. And that's just that just shows the mindset. Because every single time he says it, I just laugh at him and I tell him to go fuck himself. I'm like, first of all, you didn't write that medal. You didn't write that award. My actions wrote that. What I did, and I'm humble. I'm humble when it comes to all of that.
Yeah.
I'm humble when it comes to all that. But when somebody tells you something like that, it's like, dude, you are not the reason why I got that medal. I am the reason why I got that fucking medal.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of mentality that they have.
Yeah. Is that what a lot of them you say? So it's but it's not all officers, but it is.
No. And it's anecdotal. Those are my experiences, but I can tell you right now, you talk to most veterans are going to tell you the same exact thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the first time because I have a lot of soldier friends. I mean, both my mom and dad served in the Navy, so I kind of, we have the same kind of mentality. I actually got called by a recruiter when I was in high school. They must have just gave him a list of names. No other.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do.
Yep. Honestly, my mom. I'm going to tell you the story because I think it's a little funny and you might enjoy it. My mom's the one that answered the phone, and this recruiter's like, yeah, this is an Army recruiter. I'm looking for John. And she thought it was a joke. She thought it was one of my friends trying to play a prank on me. And so I answer the phone and he's like, and I'm like, no, it's definitely not one of my friends. And he's like, hey, have you ever thought about, a career in the service? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I have. But the problem is you won't take me. I'm in a wheelchair. And he's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. He's like, we just get a list of names. We don't know who or anything like that. And I'm like, dude,
Well,
I'm like, it's cold, man. Don't worry about it. I was like, I was just busting your chops a little bit. You know, I was like, it's not a problem. I was like, I know that you don't, you know, you didn't know that, but, and then he actually like talked. I think he felt so bad. I think 'cause he talked to me for like 15 more minutes just about other stuff and
right.
stuff. Yeah, before he got off the phone. But it was just funny. That just goes to show though that the recruiters don't get any kind of. They get a list of names, numbers, and that's it.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happens. Especially, you said it was in high school, right?
Yep.
So it's actually a federal law that the school has to release a list of names to recruiters, and parents can opt out of that. You should get a letter at the beginning of every year. You can opt out of it, but high schools actually have to release a list of their seniors every single year. Well, juniors too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was during my senior year, yeah, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, that just goes to show the recruiters, they don't, you know, they do have a hard job, and you know,
Those lists were probably one of the biggest reasons why I hated recruiting, because
cold call.
yeah, phone. Well, not just not that I don't like talking to people on the phone. They expect you to call from those lists every single day. You're talking about a senior class that only has 100 and something people, and you
I
have
had way more than that.
well, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm talking about anecdotally from me when I was in recruiting. Like, it
Yeah.
was small schools that I recruited out of, but the senior class had like 100 and something people, and I was expected to call that list every single night the
Yeah.
entire school year. It's like, how many times do you want me to call these kids?
Yeah.
Like, I've already called Johnny over here 50 times, and he's told me to go fuck myself 50 times. What do you want me to do?
Yep. I mean, there's yes. How often do you think that calling somebody 6 or 7 or 8 times, you know, you were a recruiter. Has that ever happened? Have you ever, the longer you talk to someone, have you ever actually gotten someone to finally agree? Yes.
Nope, nope.
Okay, never. Because I thought I was gonna take a guess at like I bet it's probably like less than a handful, if any.
Most of the times when I recruited somebody in my station, it was because I was genuine and upfront with them. Most of the kids that I enlisted, it was from doing this,
Yeah.
talking face to face, and I would just sit down and I would tell them exactly how it was. Like, listen, dude, there's going to be times you hate the Army, there's going to be times you love it, but it's a good career. And then I would flat out tell them, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make you any promises. And if you're not going to be able to enlist, I'm going to flat out tell you, I don't want you. Oh, dude, I stayed getting in trouble in recruiting because of that, because I was so honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's terrible that you got in trouble for being honest. You imagine that's what you should be. You should be as honest as possible to these
You would
kids.
think
That way
that
they know.
you would think that, but that's typically not how it goes. Well, what happened? Why did he walk out? He didn't walk out. I told him there's nothing I could do for him. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't walk out. I told him to leave. I told him to get the fuck out of here. Like, and
Isn't
they
what
get mad. Well, you can't just let people walk out like that. Like, yes, I can. Well, watch me. I just did.
yeah, it's not going to help someone who isn't gonna make it through some of the basic training and
Well,
stuff
not
too.
only that too, but I have to think that I still had buddies and stuff that were serving in the Army.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put people in the Army that are potentially going to put their lives at risk either.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
if we had kids that came in with mental health issues and stuff like that, I'd look at their paperwork, and of course the Army's like, well, get them a waiver. You don't have to talk about this. Like, I don't have to talk about this. This guy is going to be protecting somebody's life on a battlefield one day, and he has mental health issues. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's good that you did do that. Because that's a bad situation. I mean, the draft during the Vietnam War didn't work.
No, no.
I mean, you can't take people and press them in. You can't take people and press them into service.
No, that's how you keep people in body bags. Essentially, that's how you get people killed, man.
Yeah, yeah. Even there's lots of evidence out there that shows that even that draftees got good, other good soldiers
Well,
killed.
and that's why during the Vietnam War the casualty rate was so high. And
Yeah,
most people don't know that, because you had people that were serving that were drafted that they shouldn't have been serving.
yeah, and
And
they
even though we've taken a lot of losses in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's also a reason why those casualty rates are so low. One, obviously, combat medicine has improved over the years. That has a lot to do with it. You know, your life expectancy, and then you have combat lifesaver courses, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Army's been an all volunteer force since the Vietnam War. Once the Vietnam War ended, it's been an all volunteer force. We haven't had the draft. So you have good quality soldiers, sailors, Marines, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. And that's important. I mean, you think that's what it takes to be a soldier. You have to want that.
Oh yeah, you got to want to be there, even though there's times you don't want to be there.
And it's not. I mean, it's different from like other jobs that I mean, in any job you could say, well, you got to want to be there for you if you're going to enjoy it and stuff. But when it comes to a soldier, I think that's probably even above any other place except for maybe other jobs that are dangerous. You know what I mean? Like an astronaut or the high steel workers. But anything where your life is on the line, you have to want to do it.
Yeah, and you can't go into those career fields half-assed either.
Yeah, no, or you're going to end up dead, or someone else is going to end up dead as a result of you. So,
no, I agree 100%.
So, how long did you recruit after you got out of the service?
I was recruited for 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
And then
my injuries in Afghanistan ended up catching up to me. It was actually while I was on recruiting is when I ended up retiring. I'm medically retired. Like I'm good. Like I have a paycheck for the rest of my life. I have free medical for the rest of my life. But it was in recruiting that some of my injuries caught up to me. And finally they were like, well, you can't jump out of airplanes anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it got to the point where it was like, all right, I guess it's time to go. Yeah.
Now let me ask you, unless you don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. But now the medical discharge, is that the same thing as like an honorable discharge?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically the same equivalent.
Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second and I'll get it for you. If you got just 1 second, I'll go pull something.
Yeah, go ahead. Wait 1 second. He's going to go get us our discharge. Some of you may have just saw my mom walk over my shoulder into the kitchen. But we're waiting. He's going to get his discharge papers. I think that's an important question that I just asked. We don't know whether, if you're not in the military service, you don't know whether the discharge, the dishonorable discharge, the honorable discharge, the medical discharge.
I moved it in here, so give me a second. I'll hang this back up later. But you can actually see, and I got to move this out of the way a little bit.
Yeah.
That's my retirement certificate. It's just like being retired.
Oh, so it's not even, it doesn't even say that it's a medical discharge or anything. It's just a retirement.
It just says certificate of retirement.
Okay, very good. So, and that's what you get when you retire anyway?
Yep.
Now, do all soldiers get that?
No. I'm officially considered retired.
How does that work? Well, how many years you have to serve before you're considered
you have to
retire?
You have to serve 20 years to retire from the military, but I'm medically retired. Like they just retired me.
Oh, okay. So it has to be a career before you can officially retire. So enlisted men that serve like 4 or 6 years, they don't retire. They don't
retire. The only way that you can retire the way I did, like I said, medically, injuries that I sustained while I was serving made it to where I could not serve anymore in the capacity that I enlisted to do. So I am retired, but I'm medically retired. All my paperwork says retired though.
Okay. So that's interesting. So there's
basically
there's
early retirement.
So it's not just discharge. It's not just discharge. It's there's also retirement.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to learn about some of that stuff.
My military ID. I still have a military ID that says U.S. Army Staff Sargent retired. I can still go on base and everything.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. Yeah, that's great. Now, what have you been doing since being a recruiter? What's the plan now? What have you been doing now? I mean, you said that you get a check because of your medical retirement, right. But I mean, I imagine if you're anything like other soldiers and even like me, you're not just going to sit around and twiddle your thumbs. You're going to come up with something
before I even officially retired from the Army, I was already enrolled in college. I was actually I went to college to be an engineer.
Okay.
Before I got out. So a couple months before I even got out, when I was on terminal leave, they call it terminal leave. When I was on terminal leave, I was already taking college courses up at Fairmont State University, studying process technology, and to essentially become an operator at a power plant. So I studied power plant engineering for about 2 years, and some stuff happened. My mom ended up getting sick, and she ended up passing away. So I left that career field. But I ended up working as a pit operator down here at one of the local power plants for not power plants, aluminum factory. I worked there for 3 years doing midnights. I worked midnights for like 3 years doing that. But yeah, I left that job eventually because physically it was starting to take its toll on me, and I'm a single father, so it was like I can't do this, man. I gotta be able to be with my kid, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. So I left that job, and now basically all I do is I live off my retirement, and every now and then I take college courses online. Like I said, I took the LSAT year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and every now and then I'll just enroll in a basic law course just so I can take. I don't plan on becoming a lawyer or anything like that, but I've studied the intro to constitutional law and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with, I mean, even if you're not becoming a lawyer, there's nothing wrong with taking those kinds of courses and stuff. So since you're a student, let me just ask you a little sidebar right quick. Where do you stand on student loans? Should everybody be able to go to college for free, or should people have to pay their own way?
Fuck no, pay your own way.
Okay.
It's not the taxpayer's responsibility. My college was paid for because I served my country.
Yeah.
Like, student loans are no different than a home loan, a vehicle loan. You agree to those terms.
Yeah.
It's not my job to make sure. So, and I've had these conversations, and it's going to make sense when I say it. It is already incredibly hard right now to get a job, even though you have a degree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that still expect you to have work experience, which I do think that's bullshit. But
yeah,
it's hard enough right now to get a job with a degree. Imagine if they just start handing out degrees to everybody. It's going to be that much more substantially harder to get a job, because now you can go fill out an application and you can say, hey, I've got a bachelor's degree in this. I've got an associate's degree in this. And even then, they're like, well, we have 10 other applicants that also have a degree. We have to analyze what their work capabilities are as well. So it's already extremely competitive. Now imagine 5 years from now, after we make all college tuition free, now you've got people going into job interviews, and instead of saying, yeah, we got 10 other applicants that also have a degree, we have 250 other applicants that also have a degree. So your degree doesn't mean jack shit anymore.
Yep. That's a really good analogy of how that could go down. Yeah, that's really interesting. My advice to people who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on classes and student loans where they earn a degree, like in, I don't know,
underwater
ballet,
basket weaving and stupid shit.
Yeah. Like, listen, if you're going to spend that kind of money on a degree in that, fine, but you better be able to pay for it. You know what I mean? You got to understand that.
Go to a trade school.
Yeah.
Stop getting these stupid gender study bullshit degrees and go to a trade school.
Yeah.
Go get a degree in something that people actually need and want, and that's always going to be there.
Although the general was just in front of Congressman Matt Gaetz, Congressman or Senator.
I saw that exchange.
Yeah, and apparently, is there gender studies being studied at West Point? Do you know? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, all that stuff's real.
I
just talked to a buddy of mine the other day that was telling me about transgender. What's the word I want to use? They were having.
Feel free to use whatever word you like.
What's the word I want to use? They were having classes about transgenderism in the Army. They're giving classes on this shit. I'm like, what does that have to do with fighting our nation's enemies?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I definitely don't think in our armed forces is any kind of studies like that. That's completely ridiculous.
Right.
That's completely ridiculous. Yes. So now back to the colleges for just a second, because there was one other thing I wanted to ask you. Do you think that the colleges, does there need to be some kind of oversight over the colleges? Because some of them do charge an inordinate amount of money to attend.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be some sort of oversight, because college education shouldn't be as expensive as it is. There's definitely price gouging in colleges. somebody shouldn't have to pay $500 for a fucking book, man.
Yeah.
Like, tuition
what about-
should not be as high as it is. If
Yeah.
people want to talk about the problems with colleges, the answer isn't to make it free and make taxpayers pay for it. Get these college educators and these universities to lower their prices.
Yeah.
Easy
Yeah.
solution. But you know what? And I'm going to say this because
Oh, we might have lost him there. Hold on, we lost you for a minute.
college.
Hold on, Matt. We lost you for a second. You're lagging in and out a little bit. So hold on. Let's let it catch up. All right, I'm back. You're back now, so I see you. All right. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you completely lagged out. You were frozen. We didn't hear you, so I wanted to. It happens once in a while. But yes, go ahead, continue.
It's cool. It happens. But But what I'm getting at is we can lower the cost of education.
Yeah.
It's not like their goal, but that's not what their goal is. Their goal isn't to lower the cost of education. It has nothing to do with making education more affordable. They simply want everything to be fucking free.
Yeah. And well, colleges and prices have gone up, not down in the last 30 years. Not, you know what I mean? They've increased, not gone down.
If they really had that much issue with colleges, instead of trying to make it free, they would just get the cost to be lowered. They would lower the cost. They're not trying to do that, though. They're not even going to address that issue because, like I said, it's not about making college affordable or education affordable. It's about free, and getting the taxpayers. They want to hammer millionaires, the wealthy, and major corporations to the point that we rely on the government for everything.
Yes, that's exactly what the goal is. Leading us to the NCAA. Since we were talking about colleges, do you think that colleges should be able to make hundreds of millions of dollars off selling apparel that their students are wearing, and the students don't make anything? Yes, they get a free tuition. Yes, all right. If that's your argument, yes, they do get tuition. They do get free tuition, but is that really? I mean, some of these college athletes can suffer injuries that could end their career. They never make it to the pros. So, do you have an opinion on that, on the NCAA and their athletes?
I don't have an issue with them selling gear because that's their brand. Like, I buy Texas Tech gear. I'm a football fan. I think in those regards, the federal government needs to stay the fuck out of it because there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the federal government can even get involved in those situations.
No, I wasn't talking about with the federal government.
But you'll get what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So do I think it needs to be something government-wise? No. Government needs to stay out of it. So does the state. States don't have those rights either. But they could do the right thing morally and take some of those funds and put them into Pell Grants for the students and actually have some of those proceeds go back to the students in the form of educational programs and rehabilitation for their athletes.
Okay, so that's an interesting solution. Because my thoughts have always been that if they're going to sell jerseys and they're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars off of they're selling their gear, the students should be able to get maybe even a little bit more than tuition, especially if they're injured. Like, I think there should be some kind of fund.
Well, if they're selling, like if it's a hot selling jersey number for like a star player, and people are buying that jersey because they're buying that player's jersey, then absolutely that player should get a portion of that.
Yeah,
you're selling their name.
Yeah, or at least something for players who are injured in college, because then they don't get to go to the pros anyway. So I just think that
it's funny because I've never been asked that question. I've never been asked that question. It's interesting.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to be the first one to ask you that question. You were talking about colleges, and I figured the NCAA was a good place to go after that.
I think you're onto something. I think it's a good idea to maybe more people need to look into that. But when you're talking about, like I said, in terms of the government there's nothing the government can do about it.
Yes, I would think that the government probably needs to, or if the government's involved at all, maybe it would be initially to set up like an independent commission, but not to do anything beyond that, just to like establish it. And then the government gets away and lets this thing that they set up run it. Not under the government's flag or anything. The NCAA can pay for it themselves. So yeah, all right. So now you did a couple of different jobs. Now you're just you've been collecting your check, but that's not all you're doing right now these days.
No, no.
So what else are you doing now that you've done doing some of the other jobs and you're spending more time with your kid?
I do a lot of videos and I talk a lot of shit on Facebook. Here recently, well, for years people have tried getting me to make content because I've always been real into politics and educating people about what's going on in the country. So about a month ago, I set up a page on Facebook called the Patriot Edda, and now what I'm doing now is I'm making content for that page. I do a podcast on Spotify, and I'm actually a writer for America's Tribune now. So now I'm doing this.
Yes. Exactly. Yep, exactly. That's what I'm doing. And yeah, I started this thing almost 2 years ago now. And it was just because it was, it's hard for me to find a job.
Right.
Getting employment doesn't really work. So I've been trying to, and I have my art business, but it's an art business. Art's only going to get you so far. So
well, dude, you can always rob banks and be the getaway driver.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do have a license, so I can drive.
Well, I was talking about maybe hitching up a trailer or something to the back of your wheelchair, and me being like your security guy.
Oh, nice.
We could do this, man.
And the cops will have a nice high speed getaway at 6 miles an hour.
See, there you go, dude. Now you're starting to get it. I got your back, man. I got your back, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. I get it. It is, especially nowadays. It's really hard to find employment, anyways. So.
Yeah, with the economy and stuff. But yeah, with me investing stocks, and then I started the podcast. And people have always told me that they thought I should be like on radio or TV or whatever, that I had that voice or that whatever to do that. And then, it's actually not that easy to get into radio, believe it or not.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's really not. It's much easier to start your own podcast than it is to get into radio. So that's what I did. I started my own podcast.
Even that can be pretty difficult as well.
Yeah, starting your own podcast, it's a lot of work. People think that people think they're going to just start a podcast and that's it. It's, I'm going to start a podcast and in weeks I'll have.
Oh, dude, it's so much harder than that.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very difficult. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of tedious work, and it is a full-time job. It is not just something you do casually. I know that right now the Boiling Point podcast has been a little inconsistent with our episodes, but there's been some sicknesses, colds, and flus going around. So I've had some guests that have had to reschedule and stuff like that. So, it's that time of year, springtime, the end of winter.
Oh, trust me, I feel you on that one.
Yep. We were even talking about, me and Matt were even talking about postponing this episode this evening because Matt wasn't feeling 100%. So that's what I'm saying. It's just a matter of, there's some sicknesses going around, not corona, but there's some sicknesses going around.
That's right. I got beer now, and I get a mic in front of me, so I'm good for now.
Yeah. Yep, that's the way it is. So the Patriot Edda, go check that out. He's on Facebook. That's on Facebook. AmericasTribune.com. That's it's a new news site. It's like the Daily Wire, like the Blaze. You don't mind that I use that comparison, do you?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay, because while Matt's not necessarily the chief editor, or I don't know what the titles are over there yet, I just started, but he's one of the guys who's handling the day-to-day stuff of the American Tribune. So I just started writing for that. Make sure you head over there, check out my story, check out his stories. Matt's got a lot of stories up already on America's Tribune, so go check them out. Great stories too, and he cites all of his sources, just like we do here on the Boiling Point podcast. He has links to all his material, so you can verify it for yourself, which I think is one of the most important things that people who do what we do right now need to do, and that's provide you with the sources that we're getting our information so that you can verify it for yourself. Don't trust our word for it. Go look it up yourself. That's what I always encourage. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look it up for yourself. As long as you're willing to spend the time to research and look something up, you will find the truth. So, Matt, I'm going to come on your podcast soon, hopefully in the next couple weeks. And we're going, Matt's going to be coming back on my podcast. We're going to hopefully be putting together that Constitution series where I challenge him on different.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah,
for
yeah, me too.
I
Honestly,
can't
me too.
wait.
Because I know what the answers are. That's what's going to be great about this, is that I'm going to play the other side, but I already know what he's going to say. I already know the answers he's going to give me, and I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to play it, soft. I'm going to give the arguments that the left give. We may start right now. I'm thinking that we're going to start with. I was thinking guns would be the funnest one to start with.
I know that argument.
Yeah, being that debate is, always popular in the media. So I was thinking that we'd start with guns, and I'm going to play the other side and argue. And I think it's going to be a great episode when we do that. I don't mind playing the idiot. I'm fine with that to prove a point, to prove how ridiculous an argument is, and to prove how sane what me and Matt believe in is, because we believe we're both conservatives. We believe in the Constitution, so we're on the same side.
I'm not a conservative. I'm not a conservative.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's not a conservative. But he's a constitutionalist. That's where I get confused. These labels, and I try not to use too many labels, and I'll try and refrain from that. Not necessarily a conservative, but he does believe in the Constitution, which really I don't want to point this out to you, but really on today's spectrum of things, that really does kind of put you on the conservative side.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the way over. Maybe not all the way.
I don't go with the whole false dichotomy of the political party system just because I don't believe in two-party system. I don't like most Republicans. I don't like most Democrats. I don't even like most libertarians. I'm a soldier. I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a constitutionalist. I don't like restricting myself to labels,
Yeah, absolutely. I only do it so that people can know people can get a little understanding about who I am. Is the only reason that I use those kind of words.
It's actually funny because I get into political arguments with conservatives all the time, and it's not like I don't bash them for their views. And it's more along the lines of, hey, you're fucking wrong. Maybe you need to go read the Constitution. That's not what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
Like, I get into it with conservatives all the time because they put a lot of false information out there as well.
Both sides do. It's not, certainly it's not just the liberals. It's just that some of the ones that we're going to be doing first will be the liberal side.
I can't wait.
I'm very excited for that also, because I got some good ones. I mean, we're gonna do guns, and being that I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. Matt is not a Christian. We are certainly, one of the things that we will be doing is we will be discussing Christianity in the Constitution, and and we're going to have that conversation too. You rest assured. But that's going to be a little bit down the line. I want to get a few in before we tackle something that's going to be like that. But yeah, we're going to have some good Constitution talks. I'm going to play the dummy and challenge him, since he knows it way better than I do. But I'm not going to be stupid. I'm going to give you the arguments that the left or the right gives regarding a subject, and then we'll see how Matt counters them. So
let's do it, man. I'm a juggernaut.
Yeah, and now, I mean, everybody should know that I completely expect that I'm going to lose these debates. That's the whole point. But the point is that when you debate someone who disagrees with you, more often than not in today's society, when you disagree, as soon as you disagree with someone, they take it personally, and then the conversation.
100% of the time. And like I said, I get it from both sides too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it deteriorates quickly, and then you don't have a productive conversation, and that's what we're going to do. That's why I'm going to choose an argument from the left or the right, and then we're going to have the conversation, because I'm not going to get upset when he tells me how wrong I am, and he's not going to get upset if I make a good point. So that's why we're going to do it that way. So you can see how these arguments would unfold if people were able to just separate themselves from their own viewpoints. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that they hate you or they're not challenging your beliefs. They just don't believe what you believe. It's okay. And I'm looking very forward to the one. I mean, I'm looking forward to the gun one, but I'm also looking forward to the one where we're going to discuss Christianity and the Constitution, and whether America has, is our Christian values really part of the Constitution? That's something we're going to argue for sure. Because
I think you're going to find some interesting stuff about me on that one.
Yeah. but I've had conversations with other people on the Boiling Point podcast about how the founding fathers were Christians. Clearly they were Christians. Clearly they believed in Christianity, and how I believe the Constitution does reflect those values, and that's what they wanted. They wanted this country to be founded on Christian values. But we're going to wait. Let's wait until we get there. Let's wait till we get there. That's going to be a great episode.
I already almost countered you, but I was listening.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. No, let's just wait.
I already almost countered you.
Let's just wait till we get there, because I'm going to do some brushing up and some research of my own. That one will be a legitimate one. That one I won't be playing aside. That one I'll actually be playing my own point of view, something that I believe, and we'll see if Matt. We'll see, and we're not even going to see we're not even going to get him to answer yet, if whether or not he agrees. So we're going to wait. We're going to wait until the episode. We'll see whether or not he refutes what I believe, or if he actually if it's true, if he thinks that is the case. So we'll wait for that one, but that's going to come in the coming weeks. We'll start putting those together. And I'll be on his podcast, the Patriot Edda. So make sure you look for that. Go like the page, go share it out. Share this episode out, please. That's what's going to help us grow the most, is if you share out our content, please. Share out our episodes. Facebook, Instagram, Parler, and Rumble. We're on all of them. I'm updating the YouTube channel. In case you prefer to watch episodes on YouTube and not Rumble, I can understand. And I'm working on getting the YouTube station updated, so keep tuning into that. Our storefronts. Bonfire.com/store/The Boiling Point Podcast. You're not going to be able to see it. Oh, maybe a little bit. Get yourself some Boiling Point Podcast gear. I will start harassing Matt until he gets himself a Boiling Point Podcast t-shirt. So that way, when he's on the podcast, he will be representing correctly and appropriately.
Touche, Batman. Maybe I'll get you to wear some Viking armor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine. Send me a Patriot Edda shirt. I'll rock that, and you can rock the Boiling Point Podcast shirts.
Right.
We'll get him a shirt here in the future. So check out his stuff, our storefronts. Make sure you like everything. Matt from the Patriot Edda, who may even eventually become the Boiling Point Podcast's senior Constitution correspondent. So that's what he was doing today. We're kind of auditioning.
That should scare every single one of you.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing on this episode. Is we're a little audition to see whether or not he's going to become the Boiling Point Podcast senior Constitution correspondent. So make sure you stay tuned into his next episode, and we'll see if he actually gets awarded the title, because that's what I do here. We don't make money yet, the Boiling Point Podcast. So I reward people with titles.
You're going to start making some money, though.
Yes, we are going to start making some money. Yes, at some point we're going to start making some money. Look for our Amazon links. Buy something through our links, and we will make a commission. We're Amazon associates. That's how we're going to start monetizing a little bit more of the Boiling Point Podcast. So look for that. JDEDESIGNz, Facebook.com/JDEDESIGNz with a Z. That's my art business. Go pick up a poster while they still last. I'm running out. Believe it or not. Buy one now. Okay, now the ending. Mike, the Patriot Edda. I'm your host, JD, and that's the end. I'm not around. Have you found? I'm always on you.